So imagine going on a camping expedition where you set up camp and maybe stop for a while, enjoy it, only to pick up camp and move forward again and do that again, where you set up camp, stop for a while, only to go on this progressive journey towards a destination. You see, that's basically what's happening in the book of Numbers. It's a continuation from the Exodus journey where the Israelites, they'd been set free from bondage and slavery in Egypt, and they'd already been through the Red Sea, and they'd journeyed for about a year, and they'd set up camp at Mount Sinai. That's where the story picks up of this journey in the book of Numbers. And you may be thinking, okay, hold on. So it's all about a journey? Then why in the world is it called the book of Numbers? Well, great question. You see, the book shows this journey of two different generations, an older generation, another one that rises up, where in each generation, God says, take a census. Take a census of the fighting men and all the tribes and the people. One of them is in chapter 1 when it starts, and the later one's in chapter 26. And because there's so many numbers and people reported, that's why it's called the book of Numbers. And unfortunately, due to the first generation's refusal to go into the promised land, they actually wander for 40 years, which is not a great number to think about. They wander in the desert, and then the next generation later is allowed to enter into the promised land. The author of the book is attributed to Moses. You see, in Numbers 33:2, we're told, at the Lord's command, Moses recorded the stages in their journey. And the big idea of Numbers is really, it's a pattern that we see in the people and in God along the journey, which are man's grumbling and God's mercy, man's rebellion and the Lord's justice, man's faithlessness and God's faithfulness. For example, we're reminded in Numbers 14:18 that the Lord is slow to anger, abounding in love, and forgiving sin and rebellion. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. You see, the Lord wants his people to learn that they can move forward in their journey to trust him. And the book is organized really into three primary sections, each representing one of the three stops where they set up camp along the journey to the promised land. And each trip, it starts out great, and then things go a little horribly wrong. You see, the first section is chapters 1 through 10. It picks up with Israel camped at Mount Sinai, where they stay about a year, and that's where they'd already been given the book of the law of Moses from God, and God was given instructions how to organize God's people around his presence. Because God's presence is the key to freedom. And when the cloud would get up and move, the presence of God, the people would move and follow him. And it was time to pack up and follow the cloud as the Levites would carry the Ark of the Covenant. What would be an exciting move, what should be moving to their promised land, unfortunately, was met with a lot of grumbling and complaining about things, talking about how they thought they had it so much better back in Egypt. And in the second section, which is chapters 11 through 20, this is where they start the 40 years of wandering. You see, they'd already left Mount Sinai and set up camp in Kadesh. And mutiny actually breaks out within Moses' own family, as well as other leaders. We're like, we're done with you. We want to go back. And it just got a little crazy. But Moses led through that because God said, hey, send 12 spies into the land to check it out. And they actually came back and said, it is just as God said. The land is flowing with milk and honey and has abundant riches. And yet, 10 of the 12 spies begin to spread this bad report among the people, focused on, oh my goodness, there's giants in the land. We can't go in. We'd be overwhelmed. But Joshua and Caleb, man, they had faith to go. They stood up and let's go. Let's have faith. Unfortunately, though, the majority of the people refused to go to the promised land. Most of the people wanted to go back to Egypt. And so God, he actually honors their decision. He doesn't force them to move forward into the land. He actually lets them wander for the next 40 years, refusing to go, and they die in the wilderness. But God, in his mercy that he wanted to have on them, he puts it on their children and Caleb and Joshua to go in for the next generation. That's where we turn the corner into the final section, section 3, which is chapters 21 to 36. See, the cloud moves again with this younger generation that's there, and they take this last stop. They travel to Moab, and they're right on the edge of the promised land. And again, a little bit of grumbling and rebellion kind of comes up a little bit, where mostly they're grumbling about, we're so thirsty. And there's this moment where the Lord tells Moses, hey, I want to be your great provider. I want to provide water. Go speak to this rock, and water will flow out. But by this time, Moses was a little fed up. He was kind of tired of the people. So out of his anger, he strikes the rock a couple of times. And unfortunately, he dishonors the Lord in the presence of all the people. So there was a consequence. The Lord informed Moses that he would not get to enter the promised land later. But he's still led forward in the midst of it. And Israel begins to win battles and go on this conquest to prepare to enter the promised land. And there's this interesting supernatural twist at the end of the story. You see, there's this one final evil king. He stands in their way, and he wanted to wipe them out. So he actually hires a sorcerer to come and speak curses over them. But the Lord, he only lets him speak blessings out of his mouth over God's people. And he begins to even prophesy how the Lord would be with them and told the king to let them go. And while the prior rebellious generation had already passed away, the Lord in his goodness, he presses the reset button and he blesses this next generation of Israel to enter into the promised land. So a new census was taken. The people are again prepared to live holy and set apart for God. And then Moses concludes the whole book, sharing the summary of this journey as a reminder to this generation where they'd come from and how God had been so faithful to get them there. And he had promised them a great inheritance right in front of them to take it by faith. And so, in all that, my hope for you, as you read Numbers, is to reflect on your own journey with Jesus. Even in the moments where maybe you've grumbled or complained, or maybe had your own rebellion in your story and your journey, wanting to go your own way, or maybe go back to the past. But the Lord, he's compassionate to you. He's gracious to you. He is slow to anger. He is abounding in love, and he is faithful to you. He has blessed you, and he has a great inheritance marked out for you to discover with him by faith.